Hello and welcome to episode 28 of Jank It Up Fuzzball. I'm your host Brian, aka Mudjanker. We have a very special episode today because I am joined in the room with my buddy Greg. Greg, how are you doing?
I am doing great. I am happy to talk about our Prime.
That's right. We played in a Prime this past Saturday. We're recording this on a Thursday night, so we've had time to process everything that went down. It was your first, I guess, outside of me, I think it's the first time you've played someone else since probably the last February at Kingwood Hobbies. We had the Solidarity Tournament, and you came out to that, and that was exciting. You got hammered by 3 straight Vader decks, which was not fun. And I've played a little bit more than that in various box tournaments. Then I went to Worlds, and so I've had a little more reps with people outside of my dining room table. But it's been good. So we decided to go to a Prime. So I want to spend this episode talking about what we took and how we did and lessons that we may have learned. Does that sound good?
That sounds great. Yeah, I think your experience at Worlds, I was pretty jealous of it. You got to play with so many different people, and I think you learn so much when you play with different people. And I just don't learn anything from you anymore.
And we should just stop there because yes, you don't learn anything from me. And we should say that I've said this before, but I think you're generally a better Destiny player than me. I know. But we should say in leading up to Prime, we were actually, we spent a couple weeks actually legitimately practicing like we're a legit team. We were preparing, we were testing. And at one point I lost 11 straight matches, Greg.
I do recall that.
Yeah, 11.
How much of that, and probably at least half of those were with the deck I took to Prime.
Yes, and that's soul crushing for me, right? Because I tried like 3 or 4 different decks. I had like a Callus Hask deck, and that got crushed. And I even ran a variation of my Maul Mando deck, and that got crushed. And so it's just like, it was fun. Yeah. But I think that, So go ahead. What did you bring? What did you bring to the Prime, Greg? Just tell us what's the type of deck.
So I brought Plowalks. That's the easiest way to describe it. It is probably almost identical to the one you may have seen floating around on the Destiny database, which was the Rome Prime Champion. And I think it had maybe 1 to 2 cards different, but otherwise it was pretty much a straight copy of it.
Right. And so that's pretty exciting. I mean, Plowalks is a fun deck, and it was frustrating to test again because I just never had enough health to survive that. And because of that, because of the testing on Plowalks, I know this podcast is called Jank It Up Fuzzball, and I know I talk about jank, and every other episode I talk about jank decks. That's what I like to build. That's what I enjoy building, even though I get my teeth kicked in occasionally, and that's fine. But going to a Prime, I wanted to play something that was somewhat competitive, right? I mean, maybe going to Worlds and doing as well as I did with Maul certainly lit that fire, but I'm taking a day out of my life on a Saturday away from my wife and children, and I didn't want to go and have a feel-bad experience. So I went with a much more established meta deck. I went with Elite Snoke, Mud Trooper, Mandalorian Super Commando. I even got called out upon arriving there.
You got called out repeatedly.
Repeatedly. I'm wearing my jank shirt. That was a mistake. Someone said I needed to turn that shirt inside out. But yeah, I showed up with a meta deck. And, I enjoy Snoke in part because at one of my first tournament experiences, I pulled a Snoke out of a sealed tournament. And that was just exciting. So, the ability to play Snoke again, I've dedicated a whole episode to Snoke after his points got adjusted and whatnot. So I had no problem with it, but I can see people saying, Brian, you should bring some jank. And I did not bring jank. There was plenty of jank there, though. We could talk about that. There was a lot of jank there. And my hat's off to those people. I just wanted to go and be mildly competitive. And I think both of us wanted to go and win at least 3 games, right? That
was the repeatedly stated goal.
Right. And so you mentioned, just talking about your deck, there were actually at least 3 other Ewok decks there on Saturday. Mm-hmm. Some of them were very different. Some of them ran 2 Hoth Troopers instead of 1. Some of them ran the Arena of Death because their one Ewok warrior was pulled in after setup. And I think one of them may have ran Bitter Rivalry. So there was a lot of differences to that. You mentioned you swapped out some cards. So from the inspiration for your deck, what notable changes did you make?
So I'm glad I'm remembering, because I think since the Prime, I've just decided to forget that deck, even though I did okay. But I do remember the cards that I switched out. The first of all was Chain Lightning, which we saw in the testing. I was just repeatedly tossing it for re-rolling a single Plo Koon die, and I just didn't feel like 2 copies of it were panning out. And side note, we tried supports, and after trying those a lot, I decided they'd probably just get blown up with desperate measures anyway. I'm talking about supports with dice. So I took out 1 Chain Lightning, and I took out 1, totally blanking on the other one. Oh, took out 1 Through the Pass. So after a lot of testing Through the Past, I love Through the Past. It's a great card. It is definitely brilliant with that deck, but I never really want to see two of them in one round of the game.
Right.
Or it was a one game, I should say.
And so Through the Past, just for those that might not, there are some cards in this deck.
Yes.
I mean, a Plowbox deck usually involves 0 legendary cards, right? It has very few dice cards at all. I mean,
I'm trying to think if there are rare cards.
Right, yeah, well, obviously, yeah, not. So Through the Past, though, it costs 1. It's a yellow event. What does it do?
So Through the Past costs 1. You roll out a character, you activate them, and then you can pay 1 resource for each die you rolled out and ready. Sorry, you would think I've never played this game before. Stumbling on activate and ready. So you ready the character. So the die is out, you ready the character. So it's great for Plo Koon because he's 1 die, so it costs a total of 2 resources. But it also can be great for the Ewoks because you don't have to pay anything to ready them. So it's 1 resource to play them, and then you can just ready them for quote unquote free because they have no die.
Right. So that's pretty awesome. So that guarantees you almost 2 damage.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess it gives you an extra damage.
It's a 2 for 1.
Yeah.
Which is great.
That's good. Any other additions or anything?
So as I said, I took out those 2 cards, and what we found in the play testing was Into the Garbage Chute is just killer for that deck. It was not in, if you look at the Destiny database, it's Into the Garbage Chute is not in that the Rome Prime deck, but I found when testing it is invaluable, especially when you're playing a good player, which so many people, they go to Prime are good, and they immediately activate their characters to avoid Hoth Trooper. So you'll hit them with 1 Hoth Trooper, maybe with Plo Koon, but they're activating like crazy, so you can't always get out that second Hoth Trooper. So it's Into the Garbage Chute, along with Respite, are just great targets for Hoth Trooper. Makes them still useful when you can't do damage with that anymore, since it can only do damage to a ready character.
Right, and those 2 cards, one of their conditions is that you must exhaust a character.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
no, that's okay.
Yeah, so everyone knows Into the Garbage Chute.
Right, everyone knows, but just in case, that works out. So very good. And I took my, Snoke Mud Trooper Mando is not new, obviously, and it has won some things. It's done well. I took a list that was used by Flockton of the Golden Dice podcast. He ran it to 2nd place at a recent Prime. I took it. I had most of the cards. I didn't have any handheld cannons, so I replaced those with 2 A300s that also have redeploy, which was nice. And then I put in a few different events. I like Act of Cruelty still because I just like the ability to deal damage out of hand, so I put one of those in. And other than that, I still had a Mega Blaster Troopers, which I had pulled from one of our box openings. I somehow won a game there, so I claimed that. And so I ran with that. So neither one of our lists were original in terms of that, but we wanted to go and have some fun. There were 37 total players. I don't know how many you expected, but I was hoping for 30, mid 30. And so I was very, very pleased with that. And it was also great to see so many familiar faces. I had seen a lot of the people at the Christmas charity tournament. So that was so great to see so many of those players return. There were also players from Waco, players from Austin who drove in to see that. And it was our first venture. We live kind of real close to downtown, and this was about 30 minutes northwest of us or so. So the store was called Dragon's Lair, and it was great. It was comics, games, all that. They actually had a whole nother tabletop game going on, some tournament going on while we were there. But the venue looked great. Do you have any?
Yeah, I was going to say, can we give a shout out to Dragon's Lair for executing the tournament so well? I mean, I'm sure there may be other stores that may host more than 37 players, but this was very well done. They managed it well, and the community was well, and the other tournaments going on a few feet away, and everyone there. I didn't hear any sniping or any problems, and everyone had a great time, and it was really well executed.
And they had store cats.
Yeah, that was probably the best part for me. So
right. A couple of store cats. While we're giving shout outs, I do want to give a shout out to Jason Griffin. He ran the event. He's it's so great. He's a great, strong member of the Destiny community, but he didn't play. He did run the event, which is very great. And then Julio of Ages Broadcasting, he streamed the event. So again, he's also a good player. He, I believe, top forward the Austin Prime, but instead he took a step back and did some wonderful broadcasting for the event. So if you go on Twitch, you can look for Aegis, AEGIS_broadcasting, and you can see some of the streaming from the event. So we get there, we fill out our deck lists, we say our hellos, and then it was pretty much off to the races. So I thought what we do is just go round by round, talk about how you did or how I did, and then anything notable from it, we can do that. I'm sure what we can talk about is that we often learn things through losses. I mean, occasionally you learn things, but for me, the plays that stand out are from the games that I've lost. But there are a couple, I'm sure we can talk about memorable moments altogether. So let's talk about this. One of my favorite things is beforehand, I was kidding to you. I said, hey, Greg, do you want to play on stream today? And of course, you said no. And I don't want to play on stream either because I don't need any video evidence of me playing poorly. And then when the very first round one pairings come out, you were on table one, which would have been the stream table, right?
Of course. And I think if I had been doing how I was doing, which was, just win, loss, and it had been game 5, I would have done it. I would have been like, sure. But first round, first game, I haven't played in a tournament in so long. I just immediately went over and said, I do not want to do this.
Right. And I think that's completely fair. So you opted out of that. And so why don't you go ahead and tell us round 1, what'd you play against and how'd you do?
So I played against an aggressive Chopper Droids deck, and I was really hoping for this matchup because I felt mentally prepared for Chopper Droids. I had cards in my deck for it. I felt like I knew what to mulligan for. I was excited. And I was playing, I believe his name is Javier. He's a great guy. I pulled out Plowalks, and he just looked at it and said, I feel like I've played this once before. I'm not sure what's going on. And I'm like, that's the kind of table talk I want to hear.
Yeah, so that's awesome. And I also want to point out right now that it's you and me, right? We are each other's playtesters. I don't know if you did any testing outside of me.
No.
But I don't have droids, right? I don't have a droids deck. I have a C-3PO. You have a C-3PO. Neither one of us have an R2-D2. Mm-hmm. We do not build or test against droids. So I think we kind of have an understanding of how they work. But a lot of these meta decks, we have no idea.
Yes, I've never actually been crushed by a Chopper Droids deck. But I've watched a couple games, and I've seen the cards, I've seen the plays. And so I felt not as scared as... And just to forecast for the rest of the day, I was terrified of red yellow villain. Red villain especially. I was terrified of probe. So the first deck it's hero, and I'm like, I hope it's always hero. I'm just
right. No, it's awesome.
Excited.
And like you said, it's beneficial that your opponent didn't exactly know what he was walking into.
Right, definitely.
So how'd it go?
So it went well for both. There was outstanding plays back and forth. I had a couple of very minor, inconsequential misplays where I, took 2 damage here that I probably shouldn't have taken. Sat on a hidden motive when I should have used it. There was, little details like that. My opponent, so many people are terrified of Plo Koon. And as I found out throughout the course of the day, that usually works. They target Plo Koon, he absorbs a lot of damage, and my Ewoks and Hoth Trooper are safe. So it went back and forth pretty well. The second round definitely went to Javier. He was amazing. I just watched him play Destiny against me. It was a solo game for action cheating galore. And it was, the first round went to me. It was amazing. I probably did 14 points of damage. And I was so excited. And then I just watched him just lay into me it felt like 5 actions. It may have been through all the C-3PO R2 actions, cards he was playing. And I got to see that deck, how it really works. And it was terrifying. But it was great. It was in a great exchange, and it was very clear that neither of us were there to be very serious, poker like playing. We had lots of little comments and laughs, and it was a really good game to play. It was my first game.
So who won?
I won.
Oh, thank you. All right.
And
how did you win?
Yeah, and I think the defining probably play is he had picked my battlefield, which was the I'm blanking on the name, Petronaki Arena.
Yep. And
that was how I killed R2 at the end of round 2.
That's
I claimed and killed R2 with 1 point of damage left. And so that's always a fun move in this game. So and then it went to another round, and he just reached over and shook my hand because he realized Plo Koon activation or claim. Either way, C-3PO was down to 1 life. And so he was done. It was good.
And so now's a good time to say, hey, we're about 5 days removed from this.
Yeah.
After the event, you and I went and had a much-deserved beer. Spoiler alert, neither one of us made Top Cut, which is great. But we discussed the day. It was amazing. We didn't record. I wasn't planning on recording. So, we've rehashed this day once, and now we're doing it again.
Yeah.
Hopefully for your enjoyment, we're doing it again. So I do want to say congratulations, Greg. This is your first ever competitive Destiny win, right? Because we mentioned it last February, you came to the Solidarity Tournament, which is super great. You ran into 3 straight Vader decks, and you went 0-3. And then he left.
Yeah. Which again, I did not rage quit. I just told my wife I would be home for dinner.
Right. Yeah. No. Exactly. Yeah. To clarify, he did not drop, but he just had to go. So hey, you're 1-0 on the day. That's awesome.
That's good.
That feels good. Okay. And so to flip over to me, I started my day against Lincoln. Lincoln is someone that I played at the charity tournament. So a local Houston player. He was also running a Snoke deck, but it was Snoke Callus. And so I tested Callus with Hasks. So we've seen some Callus recently. And so that Snoke's going to try to power action Callus's dies. and it went interesting. First game out, I have not played a lot with this deck, the Snoke Mud Trooper deck, a few times with you, but I hadn't played a lot. And it went well. The thing that went poorly was that he killed, as most people, they target the Mando first. And I don't want to say I let him, but I didn't do enough to protect the Mando, and the Mando died. And in this deck, there are certain cards like Entangle or Desperate Measures that get turned off. And so it was a good back and forth match. He got Mega Blasters down, and I was like, oh no. And I remember we started a round, and I had Desperate Measures in my hand, and I actually kind of put it on the table. And then we both kind of realized simultaneously, like, I can't even play this because my Mando is dead. So at that point, I just picked it up and did something else. And a couple of actions later, he probed me and actually, thankfully, hit that Desperate Measures.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, just got it away from me. But it was a great back and forth match. I killed Callus. I got Callus down to 1 health, which prevented him from Snoking him because Snoke would kill him before anything else happened. And so that was pretty beautiful. It was back and forth with the Mega Blasters. There was that one round, he rolled them out, and it was 3 indirect, 2 range, 2 range. And it's just like there was nothing I could do. But the game ended. It was an amazing round, and this is how we learn. We learned from losing, and I lost this match. And what happened was I had the Mud Trooper with a pair of A300s on him, and he had Snoke and the Mega Blaster Troopers, and I made sure to claim the round previous because I said, okay, we're going to do this. So I activate the Mud Trooper, hoping to get the damage I needed on the first action of the game. I don't. He activates the Mega Blaster Troopers, and he gets 1 range and then a miss and something else that's not damage, and I'm fine with that. And in my hand, I have a Riot Shield and I have a Bounty Hunter Mask, and my Mud Trooper has 2 health left. And I should have just gone ahead and slowed down and played one of those, but I didn't. Instead, I activated the Imperial Officer. And then once I did that, I focused the Mud Trooper's die to damage that combined with another die gave me lethal. And so he was staring at lethal damage. I was feeling pretty good. And then he pulverized this 1 ranged die for 2 damage. And that ended my game.
That is just brutal.
And
it's a frustrating mistake. And we all have done it where we go for the kill and we should not, because we didn't necessarily need to go through. We could have played the protection, but we've all been there.
Yeah, so it was a great game by Lincoln, super great guy. And I have to say, people talk about Destiny being an amazing community. Everyone was super awesome all day long.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, and so, everyone's super great. We're all having a good time. But I started 0-1. You started 1-0. That's how it is, right? So we get ready. We go into round 2. How'd your round 2 work out?
So my round 2, I believe his name was Will. He had Bail Organa and Yoda. And although I know all about Bail Organa and Admiral and everything, I actually haven't played new Yoda and just looked at the card. So, and he's a much angrier Yoda than in the past. So I was looking at the card. I'm just like, oh God. And I said, okay, let's do this. And I think the biggest problem going into that matchup is I had no idea what I'm mulliganing for. And the only thing I can think of is I want to try and I have Moving Rocks in my deck, and I know I'm going to need it at some point for what I'm sure is to be an insane amount of shields that Yoda is going to have up at some point. So the first round went amazing for me. I put in a ton of damage, like I always hoped to, and I could tell that Will was a little scared. Bale went down so fast to almost dead, but not dead. I think I got him in the first round down to 7 damage on him. And yeah, so Will was sweating. And then round 2, I drew into pretty much the worst 5 cards you can draw into with my deck. And that's the problem with Plowalks, is that a bad draw usually can mean a loss. It's just hard to get around it. It's not like you can pitch those cards for reroll when you have 2 dice. It doesn't really pay off very well. And so I don't want to make excuses because he was a great player and it's a great deck. And the first Admiral came down and I was like, okay, maybe I still have a shot. And throughout the course of the game, I had Bale down to 1. Even after he had healed him for 2 damage, I had him down to 1 health and Yoda down to 3 health. And it was just back and forth and back and forth. And then suddenly Yoda had 6 shields. And I was like, that's probably going to be it. I don't think I can chew through 6 shields on top of everything else. Moving Rocks was not showing itself. I had tons of money, I remember. And I was just literally praying. I'm just said, here comes the draw. It didn't show up. And sure enough, I just couldn't keep up. And so, yeah, so Will took it. Well done. I should say Howie took it with the most beautiful play ever. I took out some Yoda shields. I was feeling like maybe there was still a chance. I knew, because the thing about Plux is you know exactly what cards you have left. Usually without even looking at your discard, what cards you have left. So I knew I still had a chance. and I still got that moving rocks in there somewhere. And he's tapped out, everything's tapped out, I'm feeling good, and then he replaces the Admiral with another Admiral.
Oh.
And that was brutal. I just
oh no.
It was so hard to watch happen to me. And he must, I can't imagine his thought process when he drew into that second Admiral. He probably was like, I'm good. Because he was sweating a little bit. I mean, I don't mean to speak for you, Will. I could tell he was sweating a little bit. And but he had that, and it was great. So and that was my first also laser tripwire activation. So I'll do a shout out for laser tripwire. Trey from Kingwood Hobbies was like, "You really put laser tripwire in your deck?" And I said, "I put 2 in my deck."
Yeah,
because I believe that is on the that Rome Prime list. I play tested it with Brian, and it was great. And when it fires off, it's scary. And so most people say, really, you fired off on Yoda? And it scared Will enough that he had Yoda's lightsaber on and he replaced it with something else because he was like, I don't even want that damage on Yoda's lightsaber to trigger the laser tripwire. But sure enough, he rolled out with a couple upgrades in Yoda and it fired off. And I believe that was actually after he had shielded up pretty well, but it ate into 3 of those shields right there. So it's for those who don't know, it's a support that is 1 cost, yellow hero. It does 3 indirect damage when a character is rolled out and any of their character upgrade dice are showing damage.
Right. It's also any character. So it could be
that's true,
character.
But that's true, which I believe Trey pointed out to me. Of course, it doesn't matter on our deck because we only have 1 die per character for our 2 characters. It's literally a 2-die deck, or at least my version, and I assume Trey's as well.
Right. Well, in testing, when I was running my Maul deck, it provided lethal damage.
Oh yeah, that was Maul is the best target for laser tripwire.
And this isn't the last we'll hear of laser tripwire. No. If you've seen this episode, the namesake of this episode is laser tripwire.
Oh, so, I did not know that going into this. That's exciting.
You're honored. Yeah. You should be. Maybe you're not honored. I shouldn't speak for you. My second round.
Oh, so it's not clear. I lost, but great game.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
Okay,
and to you.
My second round was against a nice, once again, I should say this, they're always nice, but Jason, he was running Dengar Asajj Ventress, and I was super excited because this is Jank, right? I'm wearing the Jank shirt. I'm not playing Jank, but he's bringing Bounty Hunter deck. So it's Dengar Asajj. This is a deck that I remember working with back around Easter time, playing against my son Christopher. But now we're at least we're an additional set into the game. And I wasn't sure what was going to happen. And I made pretty quick work of Dengar because, Snoke's ability to increase a range side, you can usually squeak out 4 direct damage pretty easily. And so I dropped Dengar early in the second round. I was feeling really good about it. And then he managed to get Darth Vader's lightsaber on Asajj, and things started to get a little more interesting. And, I felt totally in control. And this is where it's like, I probably get a little cocky, but I felt good. I felt like I just waited out. But I just come off a loss, and I really don't want to go 0-2, but at the same time, I didn't want to just completely try to crush it because I had the 4 resources. I had Mega Blaster Trooper in my hand, and I felt like that seems like a win more card at this point, so I didn't want to play that. But then he rolled, and he had a discard, and I had 5 cards in my hand, but I'm still like, I am not willing to risk that he's going to resolve that and pull my Mega Blaster Trooper. So I went ahead and played the Mega Blaster Trooper, and that was pretty much the game. They were able to roll the damage out, and I won that one. So super nice guy. I love seeing the Bounty Hunter deck. Happy to get the win and get to 101, and then just onward from there.
Right.
Round 3. What'd you have?
Round 3. I played. I believe his name was Edgar. He had a Raylo deck, and this was another situation where I start laying Plowalks out on the table, and he just says, "What?" Like literally, what? And I start explaining the deck because I'm going to explain a little bit. I said, well, here's the deck. It's these cards. And he says, well, he's looking at Plo Koon. And he asked me a question. I'm obviously not going to lie about Plo Koon's ability. And I explain what happens. And he goes, okay. So we start rolling out. Once again, I think Plowalks always, people underestimate that first round. And it was now for the third game of the day, I felt like I got a spectacular first round. And he had Luke's protection, just 2 copies. He got them both. And he's trying to shield up. But it's the first round for him was not fast enough shields. So I start chewing into Rey and Kylo damage. And I'm trying not to switch, but I am sniping on occasion because I see an open opportunity and I just snipe. And I'm very confident that Kylo is going to die quickly because he's just dropping so quickly. So it goes into round 2. Not that dissimilar from the press game. I didn't draw terribly, and I drew a good hand, not great. And I got off the strength of numbers in the first round. Everything just went so well. So I'm still feeling pretty good. I'm pretty confident, but still trying to play very carefully because I know how tanky Raylo can get. And this is another match similar to Chopper Joys where I felt like I had done a little bit of research on it and I felt pretty prepared. So Luke's protection is still going strong. There's shields flying all around, but I'm keeping them off. And round 3, I draw into into moving rocks, and I'm so excited because here come the shields. What I had forgotten was that he finished off Plo Koon right at the end of round 2, and oh no, so I can't play moving rocks because it's Spotted Jedi.
It's a Spotted Jedi. Right.
Spotted Jedi. And then, of course, almost as if the deck read my mind, Egg read my mind, the shields start coming up. So I definitely can't play moving rocks to steal on shields. I start still eating into it, and long story short, I get both Kylo and Rey down to 1 health apiece, but I can't do it. I can't seal the deal.
You couldn't close it.
He had 6 shields up, and it was just the worst part was at one point I think Rey was at 1 damage with 1 shield, and I just had no damage out of hand. I had no damage left, and yeah, so the Plowalks fizzled on me, and I lost.
Yeah, we actually happened to be sitting next to each other, and my game finished a little early. And so it was unfortunate, right? That was a really close game.
And it went on pretty close to the limit. The thing about playing Raylo, time's not going to matter. He's still only got 22 damage possible. And I have a lot more possible. So
I remember glancing over there and I saw so much damage on both of them. And I added it up. I'm like, wow, they only have 1 health left. But then there were 6 shields in front of the cards. And I was like, oh my goodness. So yeah, tough loss. I feel like your opponent seemed really relieved.
His confidence grew. That first round, I think I actually saw sweat. He was really nervous, and then he rallied. So yeah, props to Edgar. It was probably the most tense game of the day. Yeah, definitely the most tense game of the day because it looked good, it looked bad, it looked bad for me, and then he did a great job. So I'm definitely not trying to take away from him. And shout out to good old Luke's protection.
Yeah, I mean, both of them. Wow. Like, oh, man, that's having 2 of those in there. That's crazy. Raylo, by the way, you probably know, Raylo was the eventual winning deck of this particular prime. I don't know how many Raylos there were, but at least those 2.
At least those 2. I think there was at least 1 more. Oh, and 1 more. I got another laser tripwire off, which with Raylo is great because there's always weapons and damage flying around. After it went off, though, I didn't see my second copy, and Edgar proceeded to roll like a madman.
Yeah.
At one point, he rolled out, it was specials, Kylo specials, and sticks, just all over the board. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. Oh, man.
It was great.
Unfortunately. So you're sitting at 1 and 2. How you feeling?
I still felt pretty good. I mean, I didn't get destroyed that third game by far. And the second game, same thing. It was close. And so I at that point, I'm like, well, I've now lost 2 straight games, so I'm going to play someone else who's lost a little bit. So I still have a chance to hit that 3.
Yeah, your goal was 3 wins, right?
3 wins.
You knew from this point forward you'd have to have a winning afternoon. Right?
Yeah,
because we broke for lunch after this, which was perfect for that. My third round, I sat down against a guy who was named CQ, and he was from Colleen, so several hours away. He came in, and he was rocking all the cool Team Covenant like trays and everything. It was really nice. Super nice guy. He was running Elite Padme, Elite Yoda, Wizen Master. And, you ever had that moment where you feel bad for the opponent? I'm sure you do all the time playing against me. but he rolled out. Yeah,
not you.
Not with me. But he rolled out Yoda. So you're just looking for the specials, right? And the specials are 1/3 the die. And he rolled out just, a resource shield. And early enough, he's like, well, he pitched to re-roll just the 2 Yoda die. And he still missed a special, right? So it's just, it was laughable. We both had a chuckle at it. And it was problematic. I managed to put 9 damage into Yoda, which I think he has 10 health. So I put all but 1 into Yoda. And, he got Padme's starship out and he had Padme and everything was going fine. But, my first action of the second round, I just equipped Mando for the power action and pinged Yoda. And he was frustrated because he had some healing in hand and he had claimed. So he could have, it's like going back to my first round, right? Where it's like he could have done something to keep Yoda alive a little bit longer, but he didn't. He didn't see it coming. Maybe he wasn't familiar with Mando, but I was able to snipe Yoda. And then, Padme hung around a little bit. I did go on to win this in part because I took out Yoda so quickly. So I won't slow play the result there. But what was great is something I didn't mention earlier. In my deck, I put 2 mind extractions, which is maybe overkill, but I really thought that I would see a lot of Palpatine.
We talked so much about Palpatine.
And we thought, and the way Palpatine is just represented, and Palpatine won one of the primes this weekend, right? Palpatine's out there. and I believe there was one Palpatine out of 37 people.
Yeah, I think so.
Right. So I had 2 mind extractions because I was just so determined not to let Palpatine beat me. And I really thought for a second, because at some point CQ did manage to flip a Padme die and a Padme Starship die to the 3 focus and hit me for 6 indirect. And once that happens, you're like, okay, now you kind of know what you need to avoid. So I was fully prepared to let him roll out Padme and put down mind extraction to just make them focus. However, I also had an entangle. I hadn't lost anyone. So he rolled out his 3 die that he had, and I entangled 2 of those away. And then once again, I killed Padme with a Mando power action. So both characters died.
Wow.
Yeah. And again, it happened again. Like I feel bad. CQ, it was awesome. You were super fun, but he had stuff in hand that may have prolonged the game.
Oh no.
It's fine. I didn't lose a character, so it's 2 games in a row. I didn't lose a character. I was feeling good about it. I'm 2-1.
Mm-hmm.
We go have lunch. We're feeling pretty good about it. And then we go back. How was your round 4? How's that going?
And let's just take a break to say that we had lunch and we said, and I'm 1-2, you're 2-1, and I of course say, but I'm having so much fun.
Yeah.
And because when you play other people and you're so excited and you see such a variety of decks, you're losing, but you're still like, that was a great play, or that's a cool deck. So it was a lot of fun. The stakes were low for me, so I just, it was good.
Right. And also at this point, some people started dropping because, I'm playing, I think both of us are playing no matter what. Right. If we're 0-5, we're playing that 6th game, right?
We drove for 35 minutes. We're committed.
Yeah. Well, some people drove from Waco and they're like, we're out.
No, I would not.
Yeah, I know. I know there's playoff football. There's other things going on, but they decided that's it. So we're in. How was your round 4?
So round 4, I played a young man named Nathan, which I found out later you had played him at Worlds.
I think I did. Yeah, I think I did play Nathan at Worlds.
And he had a very good attitude. He was because he had never seen Plowoks before. He knew all about Ewoks, but he hadn't seen Plowoks before, and I was explaining it to him. And he was running a Wedge, Elite Rose, and Wicket. And at first I was just like, what's going on here? But it's a hero support deck with a splash of yellow. I'm like, oh, okay. So granted, you don't want to have a lot of spot yellow characters with a 7 health Wicket, right? But it's a clever idea. And he doesn't really have to worry about resources because he's going to get down tech team. He's got Rose rolling specials left and right. And of course, predictably, he's sitting on a pile of money all the time. So the supports start coming out. And so I should say, once again, 4th game in a row, I feel like I had an amazing first round. Followed up with the beautiful strength in numbers. So there's damage just flying everywhere. And Nathan said at least twice, I hate Ewoks, I hate Plowoks. And but he was a really good sport, but he got his money, he got his tech team out, and then the sports start coming in. In comes Arc 170 Starfighter, in comes the neutral or hero gray support, which has the special
Republic Cruiser.
Thank you, sorry.
Yeah, Republic
Resource
Cruiser. Control,
I don't know where I'm going with that. But anyway, so it's yes, Republic Cruiser. So it has the special where I think it's give a unique character 2 shields.
Yeah.
Or 1 shield to all your characters.
Each of your unique characters.
Yeah. Thank you. And so I've actually feel like I've never seen this in play, or if you played it before, it's been so long. So of course he rolls the special. It's got 2 sides. He rolls it, he gets it. And so I wouldn't say that I started to get really concerned here, but I believe he had this support out round 1. So I start seeing how this is going to keep happening. And it's a little extra health for me to eat through. So, not that it was the deck in mind, but I draw onto Moving Rocks, and I'm sitting on a pile of money too. So I'm like, well, I've got to do this, right? So I played Moving Rocks against this deck. It's Steal His Shields, which is just cruel, I know, but I just wanted to play Moving Rocks.
Sure,
it was fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that was probably the end for Nathan, just because it was that point. It was a lot more damage. He lost those 3 shields, and he was going after hard for Plo Koon. I should also say one of the other deck changes, which I forgot to mention, was that I put in, and I don't recall the card I took out, but I put in Karabast, which was a last minute change, and it's a 0 cost yellow hero card. And if your opponent is showing a die with damage, you can move 3 damage. And actually, that card, similar to Into the Garbage Chute, I saw constantly all day, and it did its job really well. So, although you want Plo Koon to take a lot of damage to tank for you, you don't want him to go down too fast. So I would often move 3 damage off Plo Koon and move it over to Chief Chirpa. And that card was great for that. And so yeah, make a long story short, that game I won, especially Nathan saw me pull 3 damage off Plo Koon and put it on Chief Chirpa, and he just kind of hung his head. So, but kudos for a very janky deck. And, I was though scared of it because I love Wedge. He's great. And when he starts focusing vehicle dice, it gets really scary really fast. And it's also, a game where there's no point in me playing Laser Tripwire, so I thought. And Nathan rolls out Rose, and Rose rolls all for indirect. And I'm just like, he's going out with a bang. Yeah. So it was a great game. Thanks, Nathan. I loved it.
That's awesome. And you're 2-2 at this point.
And then I'm 2-2.
That's amazing. That's awesome. So I also played a younger gentleman round 4. His name was Trace. He had Elite Phasma 2, so starter set Phasma, Veteran Stormtrooper, which warmed my heart. I love the Veteran Stormtrooper, and Greedo, which was a weird pairing, but it got access
These
to
guys
yellow.
They love splashing their yellow.
Right, yeah. I'm like, what's the yellow in there? And even after our match, I'm like, why do you have Greedo? I mean, he actually said, like, look, Greedo's die is better than a false die, right? And I'm like, that's true. But he had, like, dangerous maneuvers.
And desperate measures, I'm sure.
And he probably had a desperate measures in there. So he had some things in there. It was pretty standard. I killed Phasma pretty early, and then that cut his dice in half. And he got down a couple of weapons, but nothing that I couldn't mitigate. And so I just worked my way down the line. He did kill Mando, and so he was able to get the firepower for that. But I took out Veteran, and then I left Greedo till the end, and then I took out Greedo. So.
Shout out to Trace. I believe he actually killed the Mud Trooper, if I recall correctly.
Oh, yeah.
And he was proud of it because he recognized, and this is my whole theory, by the way, on this deck, is that Mud Trooper is the unsung hero of that deck because of the reroll.
Yeah, you're probably correct at that point. I didn't write down all those notes, but yes.
He came in and told me about it, and I was like, yeah, I hate Mud Trooper too.
Yeah. So that was probably it. He didn't die. I didn't kill Greedo because of a Mando power action, so I know that. But yeah, so, I lost a character for the first time in 3 games, but I'd won 3 in a row at this point, so I'm feeling good.
That was your first character loss. That's amazing.
Since the round 1 loss, so that was good. Very janky deck, so hats off to Trace, Phasma 2, Veteran, Stormtrooper, Greedo. I thought that was good. So I'm going in 3-1. You're going in 2-2. What does round 5 look like for you?
So round 5, it was my turn to get beat up by Lincoln and in his Snow Callus deck. Yeah. And so there was a rehashing of your game with Lincoln just because we were talking to him a little bit. And then the postings go up and I'm playing him. And I was like, I thought this guy was kicking butt. Why am I playing him? Coming off of just 1 win after 2 losses. But sure enough, it was my turn to experience Snow Callus. And Lincoln was very nice to me in the game. It was very clear round 1 that this was going to be his. He probed me good, and that was my first red villain deck of the day.
Right, and you mentioned this, like probe is such a devastating card.
I mean, 1 probe is almost death to the deck. That's maybe because I'm just a decent player. So I got counterintelligence twice by Lincoln and probed once. So that was pretty harsh. And so I lost my strength in numbers round 1. And again, I had a good 5-card draw for round 1. But the best card I had, of course, was strength in numbers, and it was gone. So he just nailed it on his pick. So that was not great. I am proud of the fact that, similar to what you were talking about earlier, I did get Callus down to 1 health. I pinged him for 1 just so he couldn't snoke him anymore. So I was happy with that. But the crowning moment of the day is Lincoln. I can tell he's feeling good, and rightfully so. He was kicking my butt. Lincoln, you are a better player than me. It's clear. But I got double Laser Tripwire out. And
so that means they were both out at the same time.
Both out at the same time. And so at that point when I played the second one, I believe, and I'm sorry, Lincoln, I got this wrong. I swear you picked the card back up and said, let me read this again. and so he reads it and he looks down at Snoke, who now has 2 upgrades on it. Maybe it's only 1. And he's like, oh man, Snoke. So he rolls out Snoke, and sure enough, Snoke rolls 2 damage sides. So 6 indirect damage fire off. And suddenly the game is much, much closer than it was a moment ago. So,
because Callus was already dead.
I've got him down, Callus down to 1.
Okay.
No, I had no direct damage to finish off Callus, sadly.
Okay.
And even though we were playing on Battlefield, and he's got, and Snoke is down to, I think 4. So I still didn't have my hopes up at this point because I do know what's left in my deck and it's not good. I burned a lot of my damage from hand, or, Lincoln kept it from me, with that first probe or the counterintelligence away. That said, I made at least 1. I think I actually made 2 pretty critical misplays. These, by the way, I feel like misplay wise, this is my worst game of the day. I was so shaken by that initial probe, But I'm not making excuses. Again, it was a great game. Lincoln did great. He made 0 misplays. He played like a champ. It just got close at the end just because I got lucky, but he wasn't in any real danger. Right. So of course he finished me off.
But I still want to celebrate the double tripwire.
Yeah, the double tripwire. It was devastating. And he, after the game was over, Lincoln being a great sport, just immediately like stood up and kind of announced how he got double tripwire.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Well, I'm sorry you took the loss because now you're 2-3, right? But still, a double
so
tripwire.
Much fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
my round 5 was I sat down against Lawton, who was the one giving me so much crap about my shirt. And I'm like, here it comes. Lawton's a great player. He was the only Houston player to make top 64 at Worlds. He was running Raylo, and man, I felt like I sat down and I felt like I was already on a little bit of tilt because I knew I'd have to play really well. And you know, I got beat. I didn't kill a single character. I didn't know Raylo enough. I didn't read the cards enough. So just like the mistakes that CQ made against my deck, I thought I left. Man, I went into a round. Mando had 1 health. I'm like, okay, he's going to survive. And then the opening action of the next round, Lawton power actions Kylo, moves a shield and kills Mando.
Nice.
Right. Brilliant, right?
Yeah.
I just didn't even see it. I didn't think about it.
So that I know, but it's just like people who forget about Snoke. I mean, I played Lincoln and just the first round I didn't activate an Ewok who was at 2 health. And of course he's just like Snoke 2 damage, kill he one-shot. Sorry, he one-shot an Ewok. And I just was like, I know that. That.
Yeah, but that's going to happen. You forget. Yeah. And I couldn't kill Kylo. I was trying my best, but he would shield up, and he did a great job mitigating. Honestly, this match wouldn't have even been that close because I got 2 probes down, and both times I pulled 2 events from his hand. So like my probes hit. It was amazing. So I can only imagine if I didn't, it would have been over sooner, right? But I was on tilt after he killed Mando. I was just totally freaking out. I put 2 riot shields on the Mud Trooper, which is stupid in hindsight. Because like all his damage, there's no 3 damage signs. He would not resolve anything more than 2. So I wasn't getting like the additional value of it being on a trooper. I should have given 1 to Snoke because he's like, okay, fine, I'll just kill your elite character. And that's what he did. I don't think I could have done anything differently other than roll better and have him roll worse. And that's part of the game. So Lawton, congratulations. It was, you kicked my butt pretty well. That was my second loss. I was sitting at 3-2. I know that at a field that big, a 2-loss person is maybe 1 2-loss person is going to make top 8. So at that point, it's like, hey, it's been a fun day. I played some great players. I played some interesting decks. I think we both had the same attitude. Let's go into round 6. Let's do our best to win. I don't think either one of us expected top 8 at that point. How was your final round of the day?
Yeah, so round 6, I went in off a high off the whole day with, although 0 alcohol in my system, I felt like I was having such a good time. I was just going to play to have fun. So I played a gentleman named Bill, who I believe came in all the way from San Antonio. So shout out to the commute for the Prime. And he was playing Han 4, old man Han, and Chewie. And so, of course, I know nothing about these cards. I know Yellow Hero, but I know nothing about these 2 characters. So I sit there and spend a good, 60 seconds really reading the cards. And we proceed to roll out. He doesn't really know anything about Plowwalks. So we had a great game back and forth. I proceeded to draw the worst cards of the entire day. And at this point, I'm just thinking, wow, someone really doesn't want me to get that 3rd win because everything that I had to throw back all 5 on my first initial draw, Mulligan for 5, and then they were all terrible after that, just things I didn't need, or like all, And so one of them is respite. I'm trying to draw. I'm trying to do things. He throws down Maz's Vault. So the money just starts piling up, and I've got nothing to play. No strength in numbers. Nothing's coming up. Any card that I have that costs money, no through the pass, everything's just, nothing's coming. And so at some point, I think I might have had 6 or 7 resources. He's got a ton over there. I'm waiting for I don't know what I'm waiting to drop. I mean, it's something really big, and I'm getting really scared. Because, it's got to be yellow, though. And so he started, but the equipment and upgrades start coming. So he puts down custom bandoliers on both characters. The upgrades start coming out. I should say also round 1, he got the upgrade that I'm forgetting, ordnance launcher.
Oh,
and
wow.
so, and he, okay. But what didn't go well for Bill is similar to CQ for you earlier. He Han rolled trash. I mean, it was blank, blank, disrupt, blank, or what, just no damage.
All right.
Ordnance launcher rolling only resources.
Wow.
on a game where we're flooded with money. And so we both are just feeling really, really like we're doing no damage. It's just frustrating. And we're both complaining at this point. Yeah, we just start laughing a lot about it, how the game is going, because there's just so little damage going back and forth. But to make a long story short, I finally found it through the pass, so that was exciting. My opponent is sitting on, again, is just a ton of resources. So I'm looking for rig detonation. For those who don't know, rig detonation is if your opponent controls the battlefield and you play rig detonation, it does damage up to 5 damage equal to the number of resources that they have. So I'm literally just really gunning for rig detonation. Nope. Hides the whole game, never comes out. Oh. And just, so I'm like, okay, that's fine. We're going to win this the old fashioned way. Just pinging with Ewoks. So I'm pinging away. And then, again, I'm making this too long, but just, it was such a funny game. Out comes back to therapy. Out comes heals.
Right. We don't think of back to therapy outside of Palp, right? But because with the custom bandolier, you can have as many equipments as you want.
Right. So he healed for 3 on Chewie, I believe. And I'm just like, okay, so it's gonna be like that. He unfortunately made the decision though to kill one of my characters that I had diplomatic protection on, so I was shielded up like crazy. So I've got an insane amount of health. So I'm not too concerned. I'm just angry at the cards that I'm drawing. But I do want to give a shout out to Bill to the most interesting play of the day. I played the card that allows you to remove 2 dice, but at the cost of passing your 2 turns.
Flee the scene.
Flee the scene. I played Flee the Scene. I had one not activated Ewok and a Chain Lightning. And the thing is, I can play Chain Lightning. I've got a pile of resources, and I'm looking at 2 Scoundrels. So I've got 3 damage that I can do. So Bill takes his turns, and right when it's my last pass turn, he passes, and the round is over. Oh, and I just, hats off to Bill for that amazing play. So I'm stuck with, fortunately, I only lost out on 1 character damage. But also, I had to keep that chain lightning for the next round because I didn't get to play it.
That's a super aware play by Bill.
It was great. Again, I'm talking about this a lot, but I get the double laser tripwire out again because I'm just cycling through every card in my deck that isn't the cards I want. And so poor Bill lost the match with a Han activation. Chewie was dead. Activated Han. Out comes, and here's the point: Han finally rolls damage
with the double
damage and 6 indirect damage to finish off the game.
That's it. I'm changing the title to the double laser tripwire. What a way to end the day! Right?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I got off 2 double laser tripwires the other day. That's exciting. And one of them won me the game.
That's amazing. So you finished 3-3. You're feeling good, right? Not
felt
bad.
Great. Yeah, felt great. I was not upset at all, and I played some great players. And I saw, as we talked about over and over in this episode, I played other players, saw how they played. As you like to say, they can see some players. You feel like they can see the matrix.
Yes,
they can see. Yeah. They can see it, and I got to witness that a little bit and a couple times. So just them looking at the cards or looking down the table and then just confidently playing. So it was great.
Right, that's awesome. So congratulations, Greg. Super great.
That's fine. So
round 6, I went into. I placed a super nice guy, actually kind of close to our neighborhood. His name's Stuart. He lives not far from here, and he's actually played at some game stores that are close by. So we traded information. So hopefully one day maybe we can rendezvous with Stuart and play some Destiny. Right. So he showed up, and he was the one PAL player. And I just got the hugest smile on my face because it's like if there's one deck I tried to prepare for, it was Palp, and I landed on him. It was single die Palp and elite Tobias Beckett. I also love Tobias Beckett, right? So he's going to generate money. Tobias has 2 range sides. One's a cost, but he still has damage sides. He has a power action that gives your opponent money and yourself money. And there's a lot of stuff going on. And then Palp. So my strategy going in was to just neutralize Palp's die, try to avoid the big fatal blow play, and also just try if I can kill Palp fast enough to avoid the back to therapy. Because I've built a Palp deck. You've seen the Palp deck, how it works.
Yeah.
I know.
I've seen it.
Yeah. And so it's like healing 5 damage is a morale killer. And then when they heal 5 damage again, you just want to flip the table, right? Which would not be appropriate at Dragon's Lair. So I was just like, okay, what can I do? It worked out for me. He ramped actually relatively slowly. He played a Torment and he played a Palp's Lightsaber, which don't count as abilities. So that kind of helped me out. He did get his abilities up, but I was able to neutralize Palp a little bit. Tobias got his shots in. Once again, the Mando died. But I thought I had a chance of actually killing Palp outright. I had, because of being able to focus and because of using Snoke's ability, I managed to put 13 damage into Palpatine. And right before I did that, because I was about to put 5 damage in, because I think I had a Fickle and I had maybe a conscript squad with the modified side, and I could pay for it. So he was about to take 5, which would have been lethal. He played one more ability, which gave me extra health. So I put 5 in, took him to 1 health left. I went ahead, he did something else. I claimed, and then I pitched the rest of my hand, because we're going into round 4. I haven't seen either one of my mind extractions. And there it was. And so
Beautiful.
I let him do something. I don't know what he did, but my first action was mind extraction, Palp dies, Tobias had maybe 6 health left, and then I just finished him off that round. So the one matchup I tried to mentally prepare for, I built the deck around, I finally saw, and I was able to kill Palp with the card I put 2 copies of. And so Stuart, you were an excellent competitor. He bought a pair of my Jank It Up tokens, so thank you for that, Stuart. It was a fun game, but it just I couldn't stop smiling because it finally worked, right? I finally got the opponent I'd hoped for, and the result was everything I wanted. I was able to mind extract Palpatine FTW. So finished 4-2.
All right.
That was
Beautiful.
awesome.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Congrats.
So at that point, thank you. At that point, we just sit around and wait for the top 8. I finished 12th, which I was super proud of. Stuart finished 16th, so that was awesome. Lawton, I believe, finished 4th. And so he made top 8, but I finished in the top 16. I got some nice top 16 Raylo swag, which was great. And it felt good. Lawton went on to win the whole thing. So congratulations to Lawton. Lawton in the finals played against a competitor, Todd from Austin, who is running a 4-LOM deck. There are excellent interviews with both Lawton and Todd on the Diggity Destiny podcast, episode 5. So if you look for them, they're relatively new. It's Trey and Jonathan Lowe, 2 members of the Houston community, but check that out. But it feels good to say, hey, I lost to the champ. You know, that helps.
I was about to say, that's a great claim.
Yeah,
I mean,
right?
you went 4-2, and one of those 2 was to the champ.
I know.
That's amazing. That's
bad,
better
yeah.
than most of the 4-2s. I feel like that's great.
I didn't kill a character or anything like that. But seeing Lawton play that really inspired me, and getting the Raylo swag. I do want to build a Raylo deck because Lawton also, just to jump back to that matchup, he played Conflicted, which is one of my favorite cards, especially in the Maul deck. I just love it so much. Now, both times he didn't get damage, so he just got more shields, which, I mean, it's feel bad no matter what. Either I'm going to take 2 damage or he's going to get 2 shields. And in Raylo, you're like, neither outcome is ideal. But at least, once again, that game could have ended a lot sooner. But our first prime, I finished 4-2. You finished 3-3. That's not bad. We went and celebrated with a beer at a brewery nearby, and it was awesome.
Yeah, we joked often that we were going to see how this day went when playing this sober for this long. Because normally we don't play that much Destiny with so little alcohol in our system.
We don't. We're drinking right now as we record.
Yeah, but it was great. It was great. And I can't emphasize enough how much fun I had.
It was great. And so Houston has another prime coming up on March 7th. I'm probably not going to make that because that's opening day for my son's baseball season. So I'm probably out. You mentioned that you'd be interested.
I think I'm almost definitely in.
That's awesome.
It'll be so interesting to see what the meta is like.
We hope the covert missions. we hope that covert missions is here.
Yeah,
we were hoping, but yeah, I'm excited. I love that because I remember that day afterwards. You're like, man, you seem genuinely like, yeah, I'm going to play in the next one. And I'm like, man, that's awesome. I just can't wait.
And I should say also we did a lot of the what is the meta of this day? Because so many things we didn't see. We didn't see Palp. We saw the one Palp deck.
Right.
We saw less Raylo than we thought we were going to see. I was playing Plowalks, which we saw more Plowalks than we thought we were going to see.
I didn't see an Afra.
I really think there was 0 Afra.
I didn't see a Grievous, but there was a lot of jank, which I appreciate.
There was at least one 4-LOM.
It came second place. Right?
Yeah, so we know that, but it was just, and I of course was expecting, I was fearing for seeing so much red villain, but I didn't see a lot of red villain floating around. So I'm sure there was a decent amount, but I didn't see it. So it was a really interesting day.
Yeah, super great. Houston Destiny community is really, really awesome. I'm sure they're going to come out for the March, particularly if Covert Missions comes out, as it hopefully will. But that's awesome. We are running late.
So crazy
We're
late.
right up against an hour. But for the since Covert Missions is eventually going to be here, we have we're going to do 2 more packs. One from Kingwood Hobbies and one from Game Shop of Destiny. They are big sponsors of Jank It Up Fuzzball. Greg, I know that you have purchase cards through both of them.
Yes.
So we're familiar with both of them. So here I have a pack from Kingwood Hobbies, and there I have a pack from Game Shop of Destiny. I'm going to let you have the honors. Which of these do you want to open?
I have to pick Kingwood because Trey was my brother. He did much better than I did with his.
But he was your Ewok brother.
He was my Ewok brother. So
awesome.
Yeah,
let's open up. So this pack donated generously from Kingwood Hobbies.
Okay, let's see what we got. It is a blue die. All right. So let's start out. It is a rare. It is Sacred Jedi Text. It is an upgrade equipment. It is hero blue for 1 resource. The die sides are 1 focus, +1 modifier resource, and a special that reads draw a card. And the text is, after you resolve this die, you may move this upgrade to one of your apprentice or Jedi characters.
There you go. I'm 27 episodes in, so I'm 29 packs. I feel like we've cracked another one of these.
I think so.
But that's awesome. Yeah, I was building a deck on the database recently, and I actually included this in it because of the either the card draw or the money ramp, which is nice. What's the uncommon?
All right, so the uncommon is Jabba's Palace, the battlefield, which has the claim gain 1 resource. You may spot a bounty hunter to force an opponent to lose 1 resource. I definitely faced this at the Prime. I believe maybe it was the Han Chewie.
About to say the scoundrel. It sounds like
yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, so that was, and I wasn't.
What is it, bounty hunter? I don't know.
You may spot a bounty hunter to force the opponent to lose 1 resource. So maybe it wasn't.
I don't know.
What did I play? I swear I saw this card, but there you go. I don't know.
If he had bounty hunter mask, he maybe had.
He did have bounty hunter mask. There it is. Yeah,
Sure
of course, because he was loading up for back to therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, Bill, that was a really janky, fun deck.
Yeah.
So it was fun. Okay, so let's see. The next card is next common is a neutral 1 resource outpace. Spot a yellow character to choose 1. Reroll up to 3 dice. Force an opponent to lose 1 resource. Remove a leader die. I also saw this on Prime Day. I saw a Prime play on someone's deck. I saw someone play it.
There you go.
And they were explaining the whole choose 1.
That's
so,
it.
And you want to see it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the
Yellow
and I would say in the meta, spot the leader. That's crucial. It's not terrible. It's an interesting card.
Anything that gives you choices is, I know they don't get played a lot, but especially in kitchen table stuff or in sealed, like this kind of stuff is great because it's so situational. What else?
All right, so we had Warning Siren, which is a 1 resource cost red villain card. Remove a die showing the same value as one of your dice. I don't know how I feel about that. It's a little
Super situational.
It's super
right?
situational.
Yeah.
I would rather play Outpace, honestly. And then finally, we have blue villain for 1 resource Hex, which is has the action. It's a downgrade. It's curse. Action exhausts this downgrade to remove 1 of attached character dice, showing a blank.
There you go. I do want to build like a witch deck.
I'm always saying that. I never do.
Yeah. So that's awesome. All right. Well, thank you,
turn.
Trey and Kingwood Hobbies, for that pack. We appreciate it. This is from Game Shop of Destiny. Let's see what we got. Oh, there we go. It's a gray, not a legendary, but it is a gray. It's a good card.
We know that card.
It is. It is Grappling Arm. So you actually have Chopper Elite.
I do.
I have 0 Chopper. I need to just buy some at this point. I don't know if you've seen the new Kanan, but he looks pretty good. And with Chopper, it's going to be great. So this is Grappling Arm. It is a 1-cost gray upgrade mod. Its die is 1 melee plus 2 melee, 1 focus, 1 disrupt, blank. Modify a droid character or support. Action, remove this die to discard a trap from play. This gets on Chopper a lot when I've seen it played. So, awesome. Thank you. I think, I believe I have one of those, but I know I don't have 2. So that is awesome. The uncommon is Hostile Territory. It is a red villain support. It costs 2. After the upkeep phase begins, deal 2 indirect damage to each player that does not control the battlefield. It's too bad it's villain, because I know there are times when you're playing your Ewok that you're actually like passing just to avoid claiming. Because you want them to have the battlefield, right?
Yeah, that didn't work out for me on Prime Day. No one caught on to what I was doing, but it didn't work out for me.
Well, this one really messed you up, though.
Yeah.
It says after the upkeep phase begins, deal 2 indirect damage to each player does not. So you probably want to claim this. I don't know. Your deck just isn't fast enough, right? But this kind of stuff is really interesting. It's kind of like disruption array. All these weird things that deal indirect out of nowhere. I think that's an interesting card. I'm gonna see what I can do with that. The 3 commons, we have 2-cost blue neutral event, Dark Reflections. Turn a die to a side showing a value of 1 or more. Then turn up to 2 other dice to sides showing the same symbol and value as that die. That seems super situational, right?
I might have blanked out while you were reading that.
Yeah, I know. It's got a picture of Rey looking into the reflected abyss from The Last Jedi, but just to repeat.
Storyline annihilated.
Yeah. I like The Last Jedi.
I'm talking about this story, this plot thread. But anyway, yes.
So, right, I got you. So it's 2 cost. Again, turn a die to a side showing a value of 1 or more, then turn up to 2 other dice to sides showing the same symbol and value as that die. So you just have to have a lot of dice that are I don't know. I guess in a sticks deck, maybe? I don't know. It still costs a lot for focus, which is never a feel-good thing. Next up, we have a red card. 0 cost... I can't believe I just pulled this. 0 cost hero card, Rebel Assault. Play only if you have 1 or more dice showing range damage. Remove an opponent's die not showing damage. So I just responded to this because I built a deck for tonight after we record if we play a game, and I needed a Rebel Assault. I didn't have any from Spark of Hope, but it was been reprinted. So I had to dig through my old cards to find one. But this is cool. So play only if you have 1 or more dice showing range damage, and then you can remove an opponent's die not showing damage. So
beautiful.
I like it. Yeah,
it's good. Did you say 0 cost?
0 cost. There you go. And here, rounding out the pack is Armed to the Teeth. It is a yellow 0 cost villain event. Discard any number of upgrades on one of your yellow characters, then deal damage to a character equal to the number of upgrades you just discarded. You're pointing to it, you're giving a thumbs up. That doesn't work in podcasting, but I understand the sentiment. You actually have a Jango Fett, right?
I do. I have one.
You have one. I understand. I don't have any. So like this, the idea of this.
But it's good for other things, and I have it in the deck that I brought over here, which is my annoying ping Mando deck.
Oh, sounds great.
So you load up your Mandos with cheap upgrades, and then you play Armed to the Teeth. And again, it's not indirect; it's direct.
It's direct. And you're right. That's awesome. So we ran long today. So long. But thank you for listening. Thank you to Game Shop of Destiny. Thank you to Kingwood Hobbies. Your continued support means a lot. I really enjoy cracking packs and going through them. And there are definitely some cards in here that we will use. And I will actually sleeve up this new artwork of Rebel Assault tonight. Hey, thank you for letting me and Greg talk through our Prime experience. We had a blast. Houston community, Texas community, you were awesome. And, Greg's going to see on March 7th for sure. And, I'm looking forward to playing some jank. That's what it's about. I didn't want to do it on Saturday. I had a great time, though, competing with some of the area's best. Super fun. And, now it's time for all of us to just revert back and, as we say, play some jank, have some fun, roll some dice. I have Obi-Wan Ardent Avenger and Finn Rao sleeved up and ready to go. So I'm awesome. Back on the jank train. Hey, everyone, have a great time. We will talk to you soon. Thanks a lot.
Thanks all.